Hey everyone, happy day today. I wanted to hop on and talk to you guys about a subject I think everyone can relate to, is how to deal with negative people. So I am approaching this conversation because I think it's important that we understand what is going on when there's negativity in our life. And I think it's important that we kind of learn the best ways to navigate that, because in some situations, negative people are just going to be in your life until you die because they are blood. They are a part of your maybe work environment, church environment, friend group. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios where negative people in your life, like it's not a situation where you can just stop talking to them or never see them again, right? And so that's why I wanted to talk about this, because I think it's important that we really just have a healthy perspective on how to deal with it, because it can be difficult. So in a nutshell, the first thing I would say is you need to have boundaries. And so what I mean by this is, in some situations you may voice your boundaries, like I can't talk to you for a month, or I'm not going to see you outside of this environment, or like whatever. But a lot of times boundaries aren't something that you have to like make known. They can be internal boundaries. And so what I mean by that is, depending on the situation, let's say it's a friend and there's issues with just being hurt or judged or ridiculed or criticized. And what you need to recognize is that relationships are two-way, right? And relationships hinge on communication. So in order for you to mitigate some of that judginess you may feel, or criticizing you may receive, or just difficulty in communicating, you get to choose what you're communicating, how much you're communicating, the level, the deepness that you're communicating. You get to set that. It's not something you have to announce and be like, well, I just can't tell you about that anymore in my life. That's not necessary. You just make the choice. Like in this situation, they're very critical of that when I talk about it. So I'm not going to talk about that subject with that particular person, right? It might be about your relationships. It might be about, family things going on. It might be about, let's say, politics right now. You get to choose what you're going to talk about with who and at what level, right? And so it really requires you to be aware and to be mindful of the choice that you're making and how you're communicating. If you know this person has a tendency to be critical, overly judgy, negative, not encouraging, someone that might be like, oh, that's not a good idea. Like, there's no way you're going to be able to do that. You know how people are with you, right? And so you get to decide, what information am I exposing this person to that relates to me, and what I'm not, and how deep you're going to go, and how much surface you're going to keep it. So that is completely in your control. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, something you have to explain to them. Oh, you just are so judgy. You're so critical. You are never encouraging. If you want to have that conversation, you can, but I just want to tell you, like, that's not preemptive. It's not a requirement. Like, if you just decide that this person is too critical, that's not something you have to tell them. You just say, okay, well, it's a lot easier if I just go have fun with this person and keep it surface, rather than trying to get deep and expose this part of my life because they're super critical of it, right? So boundaries are important. Boundaries are important when you are dealing with negative people. Now, if it's a circumstance where that's like a more intimate relationship, those are my suggestions. If it's a more surface situation, like let's say every time you post on social media, this one person has this like rogue thing that they say, just block them. They don't have to know that you blocked them, right? Or if that person sparks negativity in your life because of what they're posting or because of what they are doing, again, that control is on you. So you can, turn off notifications, not look at their stuff. You have to exert some willpower there. And it really just is about boundaries and understanding what boundaries that you need to set to feel healthy with that interaction. Because like I said, relationships are two ways. And if there's negative people in your life, you're part of that equation. So you get to decide how how much you're going to allow them and their opinions and their thoughts and what they're doing to affect you. So set boundaries. The next thing I want to tell you to encourage you through this is when you're dealing with negative people, you really have to understand that their negativity is not you, and it's not because of you. They may say it's because of you, and they may say, you're just never there for me, or they may have a grievance with you, right? And they may tell you that it's your fault, and that's why that they're so like negative about what's going on in y'all's interaction. But really, when it comes down to it, when someone is super negative, that is something that they are working through. It's their thoughts, right? And so I don't mean to sound like, especially, let's back up and say like in a marriage. It doesn't mean a marriage is like the most intimate physical relationship we have on earth. And so it doesn't mean you're not responsible for hurting people. So I don't want you to take it that way, but you are not responsible for their emotions. So their emotions are things that they are relating to their thinking. And so when you're dealing with like a negative person, let's just say a negative person in general, their negativity isn't on you to fix. That is something they have to fix. They have to fix their thinking. They have to fix what their mindset is about, the circumstance or the environment. And once they do that, they can see things differently, but that is not your responsibility to fix for them. So, I know I'm a person, I don't like for people to be upset with me. I don't like for people to feel like I've done them wrong or been unfair to them or whatever. That is very hard for me to deal with because I don't ever want to disappoint people. That is something that is very important to me, that I am always upstanding and helpful and encouraging and positive with people. Like, I don't want people to feel like I'm not, there for them in any way, or that I've done something in a negative way. And I'm sure all of us are that way. None of us want to really truly hurt someone, right? But I also have been in situations where people are just negative people, right? And there's nothing I can do about that. And sometimes we start to take it personal, and we start getting resentful towards them because we feel as though, they are super one-sided and narrow-minded about the situation, and they're not there for you as they're saying that about you. And so I just want to encourage you guys to stay in the mindset that someone else's emotions are not your responsibility. They have to work on that. And you can be there for them and walk them through, but a negative person is not something that you can fix. That has to come from within themselves and them having a intrinsic knowledge of who they are and what they're doing and how they're feeling. And so taking on the burden of a negative person is very draining. And this is a topic I talked about on the podcast. Is an episode dedicated to it. It's called compassion fatigue. And it's basically where people who are caring for other people or in a relationship or a lot of circumstances, they just get so drained in having to deal with negativity and hard things, whether it's a person being sick, whether it's a person just going through like a really hard season and they're projecting and dumping all of that emotion onto you. So the encouragement here is you have to be responsible for how you are feeling. You can't let someone else's emotions dictate your emotions. It doesn't mean you're not going to hurt when someone's hurting that you love, but you also don't have to take on that negative disposition. Emotions are temporary. They are not permanent. And some people get stuck in allowing a negative feeling and emotion to just perpetuate more negativity. And until they try to work on their mindset and get to a positive place, they're going to remain in that negativity. So if this person is in your life, maybe this person's close in your life, you have to take responsibility for yourself and let go of the responsibility of trying to manage their feelings, because you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to change their emotions about what they're thinking. You can be there to be encouraging and help point out the bright spots of their life, and the goodness, and do things to help them feel joy and feel fun. But negative people are going to have to work on their mindset, and it's not your responsibility. So be mindful of that. Because it can just be very, very, very draining. So you want to make sure that you're setting good boundaries, that you are not taking responsibility for someone else's emotions, in order to truly handle the negativity, right? And to manage that situation, because it can just be a very difficult and challenging area to be in when you are in the midst of, just negativeness. And it's hard to manage that. So that is why I think it's very important that we're mindful of that and mindful of what negativity is doing. And the third thing I want to mention is that it's your choice how you think about that person. So it's very easy for a negative person to make you feel, you then feel negative towards them and be angry with them and be mad with them. But you get to choose how you think about them. So like I was saying earlier, your thoughts are dictating your emotions, they're dictating your feelings, they're dictating so much of your life, what you're thinking about. And so in order to deal with difficult relationships, you have to manage how you think about that person. So let's say it's a person in your family, someone that's not going to just disappear and not someone you can just cut off and stop talking to. This person is in it for the long haul, right? And maybe you get anxious and fearful and worried about being in interactions with them. But here's what I want to say. A lot of that emotion, a lot of that fearfulness and anxiousness and worry and resentment and bitterness has to do with what you're thinking about. So you could be thinking in your mind, last time I talked to them, this is what they said. They still don't know, like, that they hurt me in this way. They're never, a positive person. They're hurtful towards me. They've hurt me. And it's things that you haven't let go of. And really all of that bitterness and resentment and hurt and pain just stems around you thinking that about them and you thinking about all those hurts, all those things. So if it's something that you truly want to change and move on from, you have to think differently about them. Yes, they were dealing with this. I don't know their circumstance. Maybe it's someone that is very guarded but very involved in your life, and wants an opinion about it. But your thoughts can be, this person, bless them. They, bless your heart, that old Southern thing they always say. But, they're going through a difficult time. I don't understand it. Try to have compassion and think about their life from their perspective, what you know about it, and just let things go. Because the truth of the matter is, someone's opinion about you and thoughts about you don't do anything to you unless you allow them to. You give them permission to say something to you, and you think about that, and you react in that way, and have a difficult time moving forward from that, and you harp on it, and you analyze it, and you all these things, and it just manifests into this huge issue. And it doesn't have to. You can stop it. You can say, well, that's their opinion and I don't really care, because they don't pay my bills. They don't live my life. They're not, in my head. They don't know who I am, even though they think they do. That is them. That is what they feel. And a lot of times what someone says about you, if it's a negative thing, it's because they have an insecurity about that in themselves. And so even if it takes you to be like, wow, the old saying goes, when you are pointing a finger at someone, you have three pointing back at you. That's a very good analogy, because when you are seeing a problem with someone else, you're aware of that problem because it's something you have thought about yourself or you've dealt with yourself. And a lot of times we can be approaching someone in a very positive, uplifting way. Like, hey, I see you're going through that. I've been there. And this is how it's helped, this is how I got through that. But some people won't do that. Some people are just negative people, right? And they just want to point out the negative, and they want to keep you down when you're down, or take you down when you're feeling good, and it's not something you have to allow to truly affect you. The only reason it's going to truly affect you is if you give it permission to think about it and to let let yourself have a lot of emotions over it. And I want to caution, it doesn't mean that people aren't going to hurt your feelings and you're going to be hurt by them. But here's what I want to encourage you or teach you or give you advice on. Emotions are temporary. So if someone hurts you, you allow that emotion to hurt you. You feel it, don't stuff it down. And the best way to get through an emotion is to write it down. Like, gosh, that really hurt me because it list it out, and then think about those thoughts. Okay, well, like, they didn't know that 2 days before someone said this to me. And so that's why that hurt really bad. So let's scratch that out, because it hurt me bad because that came on the heels of that, and you can kind of dissect it and see what about that interaction truly hurt you. And then you can get to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is, they haven't been a part of my life very much. And for them to do this to me hurts because why all of a sudden is this happening, or, they, the reality of the situation is much more clear when you are walking through this thought download, basically, of how you're feeling and really getting down to the nuts and bolts, the facts of it, and not just allowing your emotions to control you, because emotions aren't meant to control you. Okay. And they're only going to if you give them the power to, and you make the choice to allow them to. So it's very important that we understand that you get to choose how you think about someone, and how you think about them is going to change your interactions with them. It's going to change the feelings you have about them. So even if someone doesn't like you or is hard to deal with, you can actually really love and like that person, because it has to do with what you think about, like, they're hard, but guess what? They're like they list out the good qualities they have, list out the fact that they're a part of your family and they bring this element to your life, or they help you, because when we're dealing with negativity, it really causes us to prune and grow. So hey, this person's here because I'm growing from this situation, right? Like, I'm gonna come out better because I'm learning what not to do, or how not to act, or what not to say to someone, right? So there's always a silver lining. There's always growth. There's always hope, and there's always peace available. You just have to recognize that you are in a lot of control of dealing with the negativity and the negative people in your life. So I hope this was helpful for you all. I want to hear from you guys. Drop it in the comments how this may have helped you. If you are not a part of our Insiders group, it's a private Facebook group. I put the link to it in the description of this, and it'll be in the description of this video. So please check out that link. Go get in our Insiders group. We are doing a fun challenge right now that you can still catch up on. It's kind of a challenge that is just good daily things to do that is going to keep you balanced, keep you centered, and keep you focused on what life is about and the goodness that it brings despite your circumstance. So we're doing this challenge in there right now, but you can always find it in there through the topics tab in the group. But in that group, we are focused on growing physically, mentally, and spiritually, and just really challenging ourselves to live our best, live to the fullest, and understand as much as we can about Christ, our relationship with Him, and ourselves, and how to grow in this journey of life that we're on. So please jump into that private Facebook group. I'd love to see you. We'd all love to meet you. And if this video helped you, please hit the like button and share. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye for now.